Show on WRMN 1410. Super excited to be here this morning with our special guest, and she will be sharing a little bit about herself in a few, but this is just a fun conversation over a cup of coffee, right? So who am I? I'm the founder of the Wise Alliance Network, Wise. I'm also a real estate investor, so if anyone's looking to sell their property 30 days or less, let me know. I'm more than happy to help you out in that area, cash. And then I'm a mom of 3 beautiful girls and just a lover of life. So that's who I am. So I'll let my guest introduce herself to the viewers this morning.
Hi, buenos dias, good morning, bonjour. I do speak 3 languages.
Oh, wow.
My name is Cindy Delira, and I sit on several boards here in Chicago, but I also help run a STEM education nonprofit called Code Your Dreams. So we have programming for kids as young as kindergarten, all the way up to adults, with incarcerated adults being our largest population. So we're in over 1,500 correctional facilities across the country.
Oh my, that is actually cool. I did not read that in the bio. But I'm definitely intrigued. I know that we connected originally, how long ago? Maybe about 2 months ago, maybe?
November, yeah, it was a Poderosa event.
Yeah, it was a Poderosa event, which was I connected with so many women in the Chicagoland area that attended that event, and you were there, right? Because you were actually you were hosting, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Right. So for those, can you tell us a little bit about that event that you collaborated with?
Yeah, so I collaborated with Chingona y Poderosa, and so I have a beautiful co-working office space through my nonprofit that's downtown in the Lyric Opera building. And so I figured what a beautiful way to sort of host this event honoring women in Chicago that are doing extraordinary things. And so it was just the perfect opportunity to collaborate with other Latinas. I think, especially in the tech world, there's not a lot of opportunity to collaborate with women or Latinas specifically. And so any way that I can help bring more women into these spaces makes me feel better.
Really? So offline before we actually went live, and it's just a casual conversation. But you know what? Look, before we even go, I gotta ask, how do you like to drink your coffee? Because this is a coffee chat show, and I always like to ask guests, what kind of coffee do you like to drink? How do you like to drink your coffee?
So my first preference would be Café de la Olla, and that is delicious. But if I have to pick up a normal coffee, it would be just with a splash of cream.
Café de olla. So what is café de olla for those that don't know what café de olla is?
Yes. So as a proud Mexicana, Café de Olla is essentially black coffee, but you use cinnamon, you use brown sugar, piloncillo, and you drink it like that black. It does not need any milk, and it sort of becomes sweetened with the piloncillo. So it is absolutely delicious. Some people add extra cloves, things of that nature. So I love dimension to my coffee.
Yes. Oh, so good. Yeah. I love café de olla too. I know sometimes it's like super sweet, but I just love café de olla. So that's awesome. I'm usually typically just plain black coffee. Like that's it. But Marcel, no. But it's because I've been trained to drink black coffee, so but if I have to have something sweet, I love café de olla. Or I'll do like a white mocha or something like that, right?
Yes.
But still, okay, cool. So going back to Latinas in tech, and you're in tech offline. Before we went live, you mentioned that you don't have a tech background, right? So how did this happen?
Yeah, so it's interesting because a lot of folks think I went to school for computer science. I actually don't even have a bachelor's degree. So I went to school to be a dental hygienist. And I was a young mom. So I had my daughter when I was 18. I'd always worked in dentistry. And so my mom was like, go do this 2-year degree. You get flexible hours. And so I did that pre-COVID, but I also worked for Sherwin-Williams where I had some really interesting experiences, and I was an interior designer. And one of my coolest experiences was I was the designer for Michael Jordan's ex-wife, Juanita Jordan, who lived downtown. And I actually did not know who she was until I pulled up to this giant mansion. And I was like, you must be someone important. So she was one of my last clients, actually. And she was Michael Jordan's wife for 17 years. So she's the mother of all his children. I got to see all of that. It was such a cool experience. But then COVID happened, and none of those jobs were pandemic friendly. Nobody wanted somebody to clean their teeth or be in their house.
Sure.
And I thought of all the skills that I had. And so I ended up transitioning into legal technology, where I became a technical project manager because I was organized. I was able to get things together. I was very communicative. And a lot of that is lacking in the tech world. So
Yes. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, right when you said that, I was like, yes.
I went into the experience not knowing where my career would take me. I actually thought I was going to learn code or be like a software engineer. And then people saw me and were like, you should be a project manager. This is for you. And I loved it. I did it for a couple years, but I realized I need more people interaction because as much as I love
True.
my technical folks, they're very quiet. You kind of have to force conversation out of them. So I transitioned into partner enablement and marketing within the same company where I got to interact a little bit more publicly facing because throughout my time within that company, I was finding opportunities to speak at conferences. You know, I was doing interviews and they were like, this is a little bigger than just being a technical project manager. So where else can we fit you in? And so I just thought of the things that I love to do and figured, how can I transfer that into a technical job?
I love that. And you're right, right? Sometimes when you meet a lot of tech people, they're just so reserved, so to themselves, so introverted, right? They just like being behind a computer screen, right? So it is refreshing when you meet someone with those skills and you're like, wow, you actually have a conversation. That's awesome, right? But
Yes, and being able to kind of be a little bossy. I feel like within the tech world, you know, like there are really, really smart people, but you need to reinforce those guidelines. And as a Latina, that came very, and a mom, that came very natural to me to just sort of tell people what needed to be done or what it is that I needed them to do.
I love that. Yeah, you definitely I can definitely feel that you are very assertive and A type. Like just by having this conversation with you right now, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. So how is it that is a cool story that you did the whole interior decorating for Michael Jordan's wife. So was that the mansion, the main mansion, or was you said in downtown? You said it
So
was?
it was like West Loop. It was not the main one because I know they had like a big condo over by the lake. So it was just like when I saw the address, I was very curious. And then I ended up Googling Juanita Jordan because I was like, how many Juanita Jordans are there? And the only thing that came up was Michael Jordan's ex wife. And I was like, this isn't, why would she go to Sherwin Williams to book an interior designer, you know? And I second guessed myself. So I had my manager come with me to the appointment because I was like, what do I know? And surprisingly, Juanita was like, I do not want to hear from your manager. I want to hear from you. And so she was like, what are your recommendations for my space?
Oh my god, I love
Yeah.
that.
And as I talked
Was your
with,
manager a man?
no, it was a woman.
Oh, okay, okay.
But I think she just came at it a little bit more formal. And so she was like pushing the things that she thought. And Juanita was like, I want to hear from her. Like, what do you think is trending? And so as I began to give my color recommendations, she was like, great, let's talk more. Like, now let me add an accent color. She was very into purple. So we were picking these neutral colors that could also go with purple. I was picking out colors for her office, which also had a salon in it, which I thought was really
Oh,
cool.
that's cute. Yeah.
And I didn't get to see the whole mansion. It was just the first 3 floors that we did. And I think it was 5 total.
Oh wow, that's
Yes.
super cool. That's a so your background is in that, and then you fell into tech because of, and then your personality fit very well with it with the project management and stuff like
Yes.
that. So tell us a little bit of Latinas in tech. What exactly is this?
Yeah, so Latinas in Tech is a global organization that aims to not only bring more Latinas into the tech space, but uplift those that are already. Because once you get in, we find that it's difficult for them to move up. So a lot of companies are happy saying, "Hey, we have X amount of Latinas," but then it's like, let's look at leadership. Are they leading teams? Are they getting promoted? What are the barriers that are standing in their way? So this organization has different programs to upskill people looking to break into tech or looking to move up in their current position. So here in Chicago, we provide a lot of fun opportunities, whether that's visiting a different tech office. We did cafecitos for a while too, because we realized normal networking events, especially for working moms, can't always go after hours. So we would start at 8 a.m. so that folks would be able to come in on their way to the office and still be able to network and collaborate with other Latinas that are working in the tech industry.
I love that. So I mean, you have a couple of I don't want to say barriers. I don't know if that's the right word, but working with women, one in general, that's a lot of a lot, right? Because she's typically managing the home, managing the kids, managing all the logistics, blah blah blah, right? And then you're dealing with Latinas, which is culturally another layer on top of that, where we might be a little bit even more different, right? So there's a little bit more to work with there. But I love that you're meeting Latinas where they're at, right? And I think that's so crucial when you're trying to, to help that community or help us, right? So Latinas in Tech, that's what you guys do. You're doing the cafecitos. So the code your dreams, right? What is that? Because I'm trying to keep up with all the things you do, and I'm like, oh my god, that's a lot. But tell me a little bit about Code Your Dreams.
Yeah. So Code Your Dreams happened by accident. Once I pivoted into the tech industry, I went to a networking event and I met the executive director, and she was soloing everything. And at that point, my daughter was like 10 years old, 11 years old. And I thought to myself, I was never exposed to technology when I was a kid. You know, my parents were always like doctor, lawyer, teacher, but I didn't know the different possibilities within a tech career. And so I learned the statistics that most girls kind of don't see themselves in STEM careers by the time they're in like third grade because you just don't have the visibility to that. So I first joined as a volunteer where I actually helped on a really cool initiative called Women Building Change. So I mentored a woman who lived in Burundi, Africa, who was learning code. And there it's sort of a way of rebelling against the government because Burundi is the poorest country in the world. It is just south of Rwanda, which is Africa's largest tech hub. And the government in Burundi actually cuts the internet off so that folks don't have access to information or they can't upskill.
Wow.
So I spoke with a woman, and thankfully the French came in handy because they speak a lot of French, where it would just be like, you don't have to code your life away. You know, you could put down the computer. She would have questions like, I'm not understanding this. And I would just sort of coach her through, you don't have to get it all right away. Take a break, come back. You know, it's not easy for everyone. So
Wow.
through volunteering in that initiative, I just learned how much of an issue this is, not only here in the United States, but globally. And so I became more involved, and the executive director asked me to join on as the head of impact, where I helped sort of reevaluate a lot of the programs. But more than anything, it was a way for my daughter to kind of get into this world.
Wow.
So we host one of the largest accessibility hackathons, I think anywhere.
Hackathon?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna ask, like, what does that mean? But all right.
And I can get into so we usually partner with Google, but a lot of technology is not made accessible for folks that have like hearing disabilities, sight disabilities. We partnered with an organization called Deaf Kids Code to learn how to make technology more accessible. So we bring high school students, university students, and working professionals in Google for a day, and they hack to find solutions for issues that folks every day go through that they may not be aware of. And so it's very unique because we take able-bodied individuals with differently abled individuals, and they learn about each other's issues and how to solutionize for that. And at the end of the event, they pitch whatever their solution is. And last year, my daughter's team won first place for the high school division. And this was not a space that she traditionally sees herself in. I mean, she's like, Mom, a hackathon, like that's not for me. She's a musical person, she's a dance person, she's artsy. But then after that, we did NASA Space Apps Hackathon. So we partner with NASA. They give us a ton of data, they give us an issue, and she's worked with students who go to Northwestern University, Ivy League bros, frat boys, you know, and she's learned how to deal with those personalities as well as a 13, 14-year-old girl. She just turned
Wow.
15 2 weeks ago, but seeing her confidence build through that, right, gives me the confidence that when she gets into that industry, whatever it is that she chooses, when she's an adult woman, she's not going to have those fears that many of us have going into corporate spaces, which is like, am I enough? What can I bring to this space? Do I have the knowledge that Brad has, you know, that was passed down from his family?
Ooh,
And so that
yeah.
was really just sort of the inner, I guess, spark to keep doing this work through Code Your Dreams, was just seeing how transformational it was for my daughter within the few years that she's been a part of the programming, and thinking about all the other girls who have the same skills, or even little boys. So our programming is for all children. And then we got a robot last year. So we have a robotics and dance program. The robot is coded to dance the cha-cha slide. It was actually coded by a group of eighth graders.
That's so cute.
So if you go to the Code Your Dreams website or our Instagram, you can see the video of the robot dancing, or unfortunately of me dancing with the robot as well. But
You danced.
it's
Hey.
it's very fun because some kids are actually scared of the robot. You think it would be, it looks like a little dog, and sometimes they get excited, but other times kids are like, what the heck is that? Like, I do not want to touch that. It jumps, it will pounce at you, it dances, it'll shake your hand. It's really cool.
Oh, that's super cool. So for those, what is tech jobs? What falls under? Because I know STEM is science, technology, engineering, math. So what falls under that?
Everything, and I didn't know that. So, for example,
Okay.
non-technical things, sales, customer success, that's all relationship management. I
Sure.
mean, you have HR, you have business operations. So that's actually where I started, was a lot in operations and figuring out how do different teams work together, what softwares do they need. And it
Sure.
was funny because I learned a lot about the software for the company that I work for, but I never actually used it.
Okay.
It was all relationship management and interpersonal skills. But aside from that, I mean, you have like UX UI, which if you're an art person, that's determining what colors people like at Amazon, somebody is paid to figure out what shade of orange will get people to click buy. And so if you ever notice that buttons are different colors, that's a job. There's research for that. There's somebody that's changing it from orange to blue to purple. And that's their only job, is just to figure out what colors get people to interact with the page more.
Wow. Okay, so that's interesting. So I know that you're going to be speaking even to like the students here, right? That media, right, is in. I would assume yes, it's under the tech
Definitely.
sphere, right?
Yes.
Can you? Because I have students here listening, so I'm just curious if you can kind of elaborate, like how does that fall? How do they fall under this?
Right. So I think even to run this chat, right? Like we need Zoom, we need AV. That's a big part of technology, which is something that I never took into account. We run into a lot of podcasters, and so those podcasters, they need that tech setup.
Like,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, yes, at my co-working space, we have like a podcast. There was a beautiful podcast room, but nobody ever knew how to use it. And so it's soundproof. We had microphones, and then there's like this room with all these machines, and people were like, "What do I do with this?"
Yeah.
We have the green screen. There was cameras, and so there's this whole part that people don't see to what happens to podcasting. You just listen to the podcast, and you're like, "Wow, this is
Oh
great."
no, there's a whole nother monster. I mean, they've gotten trained to the point where it's like I don't even gotta worry. Like I'm done. Let me go. You saw. I was just like, okay, you guys are good. Okay, good, great, let's go. But it takes a lot to get to this point, right? I mean, the setup and it's like so precise. And one thing can go wrong, and people think like, oh, it's so easy. No, it's not. No, it's not. Like there's always tech difficult. Always, right? Something always
Yes.
goes wrong.
And they were working hard. I mean, when I walked in, I almost didn't want to walk into the room because I was like, I don't want to get in the way of what it is that you're doing. I don't want to step on a wire. And they were like, you're fine. We will work around you because that's how professional we are.
Look at that. You guys should be happy about that. I'm so proud of them. No, they've come a long way. So like it's kind of like to a T at this point, right? So I love that you're sharing that because I think sometimes people don't realize like, well, is this tech? Is media tech, right? Video, audio, engineering, all that stuff. Like, yeah, it does fall under tech and it's time consuming and there's not a lot of women, right? You're right. There's not a lot of women in tech, especially Latina women.
Yes.
Right. So I love that you guys are doing this, trying to get more Latinas involved, trying to get more diversity, I would assume, right?
Yes.
So what how do you feel, as a Mexican woman doing this, right? Like kind of spearheading this.
Sometimes I will say it's surreal because I think of all the women before me, right? Like my mom, my grandma, and none of them had the option to do this. And so for me to finally have the freedom to choose to go into an industry where A, I'm underrepresented, and B, statistically, I don't belong there because I was a young mom. I don't have the bachelor's degree. There's so many things working against me. I hope to just be sort of um like that little beam of light for somebody else that is thinking to themselves, I don't belong there. It is hard, especially right now that we're starting out. The numbers have started to slightly increase for representation within the tech industry, but it is hard. I mean, when I first started at the company, I was looking for that familiar face in a room. I was looking for somebody that had my background, and there were Latinas, but some of them didn't have the same upbringing, right? Where it was very traditional. I grew up, public schools, things of that nature. They had different upbringings. And so being able to find where we overlapped, whether it was culturally, whether it was just within our identity, was difficult. So one of the things I did too was run our employee resource group at that company. So it was just all for all the Latinos and employees. We actually won ERG of the year from Latinas in Tech 2 years ago or last year because of all the work we did. So we would hold an annual conference during Hispanic Heritage Month. And part of that was asking questions to the events team. Why do we not honor Hispanic heritage, at all during this? This is a global conference. We have people flying in from all over the world. And honestly, part of it, they would say that's just not a priority for us. That's not the software. And so at the last year, we actually had a salsa class. So at the end of the conference, we brought in salsa instructors. We rented out a huge ballroom in the hotel. We gave out little goodie bags. We put flags everywhere, and we had customers show up, and they were like, "This is so refreshing! Like I've never been to a conference where there's a dance class." So they learned salsa, bachata, and merengue in sort of a group setting, and it was really fun because the company had a large fun party, and so it was something for folks to do before that.
I love that. I love that. And I love that there's more recognition. And even the fact that you guys put dance, like that's cute. So I'm just curious, which is your favorite style of dancing?
Probably bachata. I think it's the easiest, if I'm honest.
Really?
I've been doing it since I was like 9. But I'm also a lot of my friends are from Michoacan, so zapateado is a big thing for us as well. The Charlie Brown dance, as some people call it.
Zapateado. Yeah. We do it too in Zacatecas. So I get it, right? But no, I love, like, I think my favorite is bachata. More so because of it's just, I think, the most sensual, I guess, right? The most
It can be.
intimate, the most closeness. Like, I think that's why I like it. All right. They're keeping me on track here. So, with everything, I'm definitely want to learn more about you. And you're born and raised in Chicago?
I am.
What area? What part of the city?
So I grew up near Logan Square, but for the last 10 years, I've lived on the west side, Humboldt Park.
Oh, okay. So you're a city girl.
Yeah.
Okay, I definitely want to learn more about your background and growing up. And I mean, just the fact that you're here and your presence, you could tell your presence is powerful. And I love that because, I'm Latina and I'm just like, yes, we need to have more women like this that are Hispanic that are doing these things. So I'm super excited to learn more about you and just talk more about technology. And I think, me deep down, I'd like to say I am a little geek, even though like
I think everybody has a little geek in them.
I geek out here and there, but sometimes it doesn't show, like, I'm like, Jennifer, what did you used to look like in high school? Like, you don't want to know, Then I posted something so people could see, like, this was a Jennifer. But anyways, what we're going to do quickly is we're going to take a quick, short break. But when we come back, we're going to talk more with Cynthia here and learn more about her story, her upbringing, why she does what she does, why she's the technology side of things, and how does media fall under that as well. So I'm super excited to learn more about that and just more about being a mom and being a Latina. So super excited to hear that. So definitely we'll be back after the short break. So make sure you guys stay tuned.
Your news flash, I'm Ryan Gatenby. Brought to you by Chick-fil-A. Illinois lawmakers are debating how tipped income is taxed after Reagan Deering, a Republican from Decatur, introduced a bill to exempt tips from state income taxes. Deering says Illinois has a spending problem, not a revenue problem. Governor J.B. Pritzker says Illinois is joining the World Health Organization Global Outbreak Alert and Response Network following the U.S. withdrawal from the WHO last month. The partnership focuses on detecting and responding to emerging public health threats. J.B. Pritzker is standing by the pension plan he introduced 2 years ago. Capital News Illinois reports the proposal would fully fund state pensions by 2048 and direct some surplus revenue to pensions, though labor unions say it overlooks recruitment and retention issues. I'm Ryan Gatenby with your news flash.
A KFC tale in the pursuit of flavor. The Colonel made his $10 Tuesday bucket so full with 8 pieces of juicy, crispy chicken or tenders that it might just last you till Wednesday, if you've got that kind of self-control. I mean, some people want leftovers. Others are more into right nowers. The Colonel lived so we could chicken. $10, 8 pieces, one big deal with KFC $10 Tuesdays.
Prices and participation may vary. Taxes, tips, and fees extra.
This is the story of the one. As an HVAC technician, he and his digital multimeter are in high demand. So when a noisy office HVAC turns out to be a failing blower motor, he doesn't break a sweat. With Grainger's easy-to-use website and product information, he selects the product he needs to keep everything humming right along. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
When disaster strikes, flood or fire, every second counts. At Emergency Construction Group, they specialize in immediate response and same-day service for any residential, commercial, or industrial emergency across the Chicagoland area. With over 30 years of experience, they've got the expertise, manpower, and equipment to handle any size loss fast. They follow strict IICRC guidelines to restore your property the right way, the first time. Their team values transparency, constant communication, and strong ethical standards because your peace of mind matters. Licensed, bonded, and insured, They're here for you 24/7, 365 days a year. Call 855-4ECG now. That's 855-432-4669. Or visit their website at emergencyconstructiongroup.com and let Emergency Construction Group put your life back together one step at a time. That's Emergency Construction Group. Your satisfaction is their passion.
This is Sarah Silver with your Fox Valley forecast, brought to you by Chick-fil-A. Today, partly sunny with a high near 26, cooling to around 23 this afternoon. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 14, rising to about 16 overnight. Looking ahead to Thursday, scattered snow showers are likely, mostly cloudy with a high near 32, dropping to around 30 in the afternoon. Currently it's 17 and overcast. I'm Sarah Silver on the Talk of the Town, WRMN.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. You know, the big wireless companies say they have discounts for people over 55, but unless you're willing to sit on hold and ask, you're probably paying more than you should. At Consumer Cellular, there's nothing to hunt down. We're built for people 50 plus with plans starting at just $20. And our 100% US-based customer service actually answers the phone. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com today and get your second month free for a limited time.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
All right, we are back. We are back live. I said wrong. It's super excited to be here with Cynthia. We're talking about right now behind the scenes. We were talking about just where we grew up at, what year we graduated. There, she's laughing because I have a sign here that says "Don't start no mess." There won't be no mess, and it's for my students because I swear every day when they come into my office, it's something. There's something happening in this campus all the time, right? But it's part of working with students. So, and you're a city girl.
I am.
Born and raised?
Yes.
So, and Mexicana,
Yes.
right? And you're another Logan Square. Our last guest, or two guests ago, was also raised in Logan Square. So, what part of Logan Square were you raised?
Technically, it's Bucktown. It's like by Western. I'm in between Armitage and Fullerton.
Armitage and Fullerton.
And now they call it some weird thing. Well, now they call Logan, I don't know if you know this, West Bucktown on the other side of Western.
Stop it.
I'm not joking. Just like there's also an East Humboldt Park, so that way you're not associated with the West Humboldt Park. So they've done some weird things.
East Humboldt Park.
That's a
West
thing.
Humboldt Park. So what's East Humboldt Park? I guess it's
east of the park up to Western. So like not the actual park. I would say anything east of California is technically East Humboldt Park, but it's also considered West Bucktown because it's on the other side of Western.
But then you go into Humboldt Park, and I thought there was also like you go further, and it's still Humboldt Park up until, isn't it about Cicero? I thought.
Yes, because I'm by Jimmy's, and so
Jimmy.
Yes.
Okay.
Lots of great things there.
Yes.
I'm on the north side of Grand, which is really interesting. But yeah, that's considered West Humboldt Park and not actual Humboldt Park.
Okay,
Yes.
so at Logan Square, I love the fact that you're sharing this, Cindy, because I'm such a Chicago girl, and I love just chit-chatting about the nostalgia of growing up in the city, right? So what high school did you go to?
So I went to two. I started at St. Ignatius College Prep, which was a crazy experience for me, if I'm being honest.
I can imagine.
It was only, I think it was like less than 10% Latino, the student body, and it was 87% white. Like the statistics were out there. And a lot of like kids would straight up ask me like, what part of Pilsen or Little Village are you from? And then I'd have to be, yes, don't spit out your coffee, please. But this was like a real thing. And they would ask me like, is your dad, like, does he do lawns? Can he come and do my family's? Do you have a business card?
Oh
And
man, I would have been fighting.
my dad, so I think there's a reason why I was not angry as a child, because literally I would just like be very passive, and I would just look at them and be like, my dad's a truck driver. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I also live a mile away from Lincoln Park. So I don't know where all of this is coming from. But like in my mind, I was very innocent. I always saw the good in people. So I did not think like, oh, this is them trying to take a stab at me. But it was just very interesting because I'd get on the train. I was usually one of the only kids that got on the blue line because everybody took the metro out to the suburbs. But it was just an interesting experience because these kids would show up with designer. Like, I mean, I never saw so much Louis Vuitton in my life, and like real Chanel. I was used to going to the Garra and like getting, like the
Like
knockoffs or whatever.
on Division Street?
No, so I used to go to Maxwell Street with my dad.
Maxwell Street.
Yes, on Sundays. And that was like a thing that we did. And, like every now and then he'd be like, fine, you can have the little purse for $20. And so for Christmas one year, I got a fake Louis purse and I thought it was so real. It smelled like leather. And
Sometimes they look really real.
and somebody was like, that's super fake, and like part of me was like deflated, but also I was like, you guys are a bunch of assholes and you're going to have a miserable life if you're just like picking on people like this. So that was very interesting. I went there for 2 years and then I transferred to Lakeview because my community school was Clemente. And back in the early 2000s, my parents were like, heck no, we need to get you into somewhere else. And so my dad literally stood with me at Lakeview for 2 days because they told me they were full. And he was like, well, we will wait until there's a spot. And so I just like waited in the auditorium with my dad until one day they're like, cool, we can make you a schedule. And then I ended up there.
Oh, Lakeview. Well, and going from St. Ignatius to Lakeview, I'm sure it was totally different. Actually, now that I think about it, my sister used to play. You said that you played water polo. So my sister played water polo for Von Steuben, and she's your age. So you guys probably played against each other. So for those that don't know what water polo is, you could tell them what water polo
Well, we were
is.
talking, to me, it's like soccer and water.
It is.
That's
Literally.
essentially what it is. And you just have, instead of running, you're swimming the ball and you can use your hands to throw the ball into the goal. But other than that, it's essentially the same thing. There's a goalie. You're trying to go from one end to the other. What makes it trickier, I think, is that you're underwater. So there is a lot of stuff happening underwater.
I know
Referees
exactly
cannot see.
what's happening. I mean, I remember hearing my sister, because I used to coach water polo for the park district because I was a swimmer. But I remember like these little kids, man, they were like some bad little kids. And I was like, I trained my kids with integrity. I was like, no, I was big on like, we don't do that. We good, good sportsmanship, right? We shake hands, right? But man, sometimes when you deal with some of these city kids, you're like, I remember I was in college at that time with a bunch of kids. My sister, though, she played for Von Steuben. She was like, man, girls would break their fingers. You'd kick the heck out of somebody under the water. And usually when you're coaching, you see them kind of like in the water, something's happening down there. You can see all the movement. So it's a very violent sport.
It's a very intimate sport. I mean, there were girls that would grab onto your bathing suit underwater because if you start to swim too fast, they grab you. I mean, or they would just do it to freak you out so that way you wouldn't do what you have to do. I am guilty of a few kicking off of somebody.
It's part of the sport. It's part of the sport. I get it.
But yeah, to your point, I thought like, okay, integrity, good sportsmanship. And especially, when I played at St. Ignatius, there was no difference in the sport with the way that the girls played. They were just as equally as dirty.
Yeah, no, there's definitely, and at least like in soccer, because I used to play soccer too, like if you're doing it, like it'll be caught, right? You pull someone's shirt or you kick someone, really hard in the leg or something, like it's usually caught, but underwater, you can't catch that. Right. So you were a swimmer, I presume.
I was, yes.
So you also swam?
I did.
Oh, okay. So what was your favorite? All right. I'm going to geek out with the swimming stuff. What's your favorite swim style?
It was the freestyle. I would do like the 400. One time they tried to get me to do the 1600. And when I realized it was a mile, I faked an asthma attack halfway through so I would not have to do it because.
So the 1600, remind me, that's the 8 laps or is that the 20?
It's 8 laps depending on the size of the pool.
Yeah,
yes.
Sometimes you have the Olympic size pool and then you have the smaller ones, right? Yeah, it's been a while. I worked in pools for so many years that I just don't want to go buy a pool anymore because of the chlorine. You're like, oh man, this is so strong, right? But actually, now that I'm talking to you, I kind of miss it. I kind of miss it just a little bit. So you were a freestyler. So you also swam for Lakeview?
Yes, I did.
And then you also did water polo. Nice. So you were also an athlete. You were an athlete growing up, right?
Yes. And water polo was an accident. I was a softball girl. They were the same season. And one year I got cut from the softball team at Ignatius. And they were like, hey, we need girls for water polo. You know how to swim. I was like, I don't know how to play. And they were like, just join the team. And I learned a lot there. So when I got to Lakeview, I was like a top tier water polo player coming from Ignatius.
Wow. Yeah, because I'm sure I would say though the private schools are usually a lot more competitive and specific, and I know they pay for their coaches and stuff like that. Versus you're going to a public school system, and you're lucky if you get like a good coach, right? Because it kind of gets thrown on a teacher, and they're like, I don't know anything about this sport, and they're just trying to coach these kids. So I love that you're also a swimmer because I mean, yeah, those were the days, man. I loved swimming.
I've been trying to get back into it because honestly, I want to do a triathlon this year. So I've been in hotels and I kind of take over the pool and I'll try to do like 800 or I'll do like 1,000 meters just to see if I still got it because I'm like, oh, it should still be in there.
It'll come back.
It is, and it has kind of been. I think the only thing I'm not great at is breathing. I think I've waterboarded myself a few times on accident, but other than that, the stroke, everything, it's like my body naturally remembers that.
Yeah, I mean, once you're in it, and swimming's probably the most gentlest sport on the body, right? So I used to do aqua fitness too, and I used to do all of that stuff because I worked for the park district, so I knew how to do that. And I remember it was just like the best for the joints, but the best workouts, right? But I always felt like swimmers, like man, they I don't know, I loved swimming. Swimming was awesome. So you were a swimmer. And then what? Any other sports that you did growing up in the city, or what? What kind of kid were you growing up?
So I did a lot. I'm still this person as an adult. I try everything once. So I did photography for a while when I was in middle school. I actually ended up on WGN News because of it. And that was an accident. I played guitar for a little bit. I have a ton of hobbies. My most recent one is running. So I've actually lost 80 pounds in the past year and a half. And I did the F3 5K this past Saturday, which was on the lake while it was snowing. That was a very interesting experience, but I was able to push through it. I'm signed up for the Shamrock Shuffle. I'm going to do my first half marathon this year. I was never a running girl, so to me, it was very boring. I just never saw why people would do it. And I think now that I'm an adult woman and there's so many things in my head all the time, running is the way for me to clear that, right? Like the more that I run, the more time it forces me to think. And especially when you do what I call the raw dog run, which is no music, no nothing. It's like you and your thoughts. You're forced to sort of solutionize for things or think of what's going on. Because music is great, but I also think that we live in a world where we don't know what it's like to sit with our own silence. So like when I do the dishes, I'm listening to a podcast, I'm listening to music when I'm cooking. And sometimes when I run, I'm like, I need to just get rid of all that noise and really figure out what's going on in my mind.
Yep.
And that for me has been really transformational, especially as I begin to look at what does the next chapter in my life look like professionally, personally, what is that doing for me? And so that has been a big thing for me lately, aside from all of the boards that I sit on and all of the other things that I do. And me and my daughter are running for LSC actually in March. So
Nice.
that'll be an interesting journey for both of us. Like I said, my daughter, I love you, Alice. Hopefully, if you see this, but I force her to do a lot of things, and so sometimes she does get annoyed with me, like, "Mom, you sign me up for another hackathon," or "Mom, you sign me up for another." But I'm like, I need you to take these opportunities so that when you're older, you're not like me, still trying to figure out what is it that I really want to do because you haven't tried it out yet. So I was like, I'd rather you do it and then hate it, and then you never have to do it again, than to think, what if I would have done that?
The what ifs.
Yes.
I totally get it. So I love running. I don't run right now, but I've done 2 marathons. So we have a lot in common actually, but I get the whole actually. If for those that don't know, if you have ADHD, running is actually really good for you because you reprogram your nervous system when you do cardio. So for me, I never understood why I loved it so much when I started getting first off, I wasn't a fast runner. Like we weren't doing this for like,
To break records.
to break
Yeah.
no. We were doing this to just lose some weight, clear my mind. And then I realized, oh wow, there's so many benefits to running, like clearing your mind out. Actually, I would knock out a bunch of books though sometimes when you're doing, I was like, how many books can I knock out this week? Right. And people would laugh at me because I would do business calls while I was running. So I would take calls, be like, hey, do you mind? I'm running right now. I got to do a 8-mile run. We're going to do this whole call while I'm running. And yeah, I would conduct the whole and it was therapeutic too when I was going through my divorce because I divorced in officially 2023. The of divorce was finalized. That's what helped me get through the divorce. Really, right? Running, and because you pour yourself into something that you're training for, which you're doing, right? So you get it, and it really helped deal with those emotions. And like my running buddy was probably tired of listening to me, I was always like, this is my therapy session, guys, but I'm so happy that you're doing stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too that I discovered, I'm a super competitive person, which is where, I
I could see that.
like annoyingly competitive sometimes to folks where they're like,
No.
you don't have to win at everything. Well, I have come to terms with the fact that
No, but you do. No.
Listen, trust me, in the back of my mind, yes, but like I've also come to terms with the fact that it's like this is not my moment. Like I tell myself that like this is not for me to win, this is for this person to take it because something else bigger is waiting for me. But what I really enjoy about running is that there's no competition with anyone else. It's just me. So like I'm running to give my like nobody knows if I cut corners, if I walk for whatever mile other than me. Nobody cares. Nobody cares that I did a 10-minute mile or if I did a 12-minute mile. So it's just like me challenging myself to
Good.
become better than myself, which is a different way I think that I've worked before. Whereas I've been taught, like, look around you, look at this person, compare yourself to that person. And now it's like, I don't do any of that because I realize it's, there's no point in doing that, right? There's no point in trying to be like someone else. There's no point in trying to get someone else to like me. Either you like me, you don't. If you don't, it's probably for the best. And that's something that took a lot. I think through my 20s, I had to work through a lot of that because I was raised to like always just be very palatable to folks, right? Like everybody should be okay with you. And I'm definitely at a point in my life where like, if you don't like me, I'm totally cool with that. If you're going to talk your mess, you could do that. I'm not going to take part in that. But at the same time, it's like, it doesn't, water off a duck's back.
Good, good. It just slides off, right? I think yeah, with everything that you're saying, it's really good to know who you are and just go against you, right? And if you know you have a competitive nature, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But there's nothing wrong with being competitive either. I always embrace this year for me, I'm kind of like, you know what? I'm not doing none of this. Like I'm taking a little sabbatical. Like I'm just gonna kind of ride everything because I am typically the competitive, like I want to win, I want these many goals done, I want to, you know, be the best. And this year I'm like, I'm good. Like let someone else take the spotlight, let someone else take the shine. But that's super cool. And I'm gonna share this with you, when you do your first marathon, right? You're gonna feel invincible. All right. Like I'm just sharing because it sounds like you're gonna lead to that.
Yes.
So I remember my sister had surgery and we were at Rush Hospital by UIC, and she was, I forgot what floor. And I remember I was standing looking out at the city. And I remember the marathon, when it starts from downtown, you're going all the way up north till about, I want to say maybe Irving Park. And then you're going all the way back down to like Chinatown, past Chinatown to Sox Field. And then, coming back towards the downtown area. Right. And I just remember standing there and I was like, wow, if I could, I did all that. Like I was just looking at the city like, wow, I ran all of that. What can I not do? So, I mean, when you get there, you're going to know that feeling when you're done. So,
And I'm considering a marathon this year. I'm not sure, but one really big thing for me is actually in a little less than a week, I'll be celebrating 10 years of remission from cancer. And so every year I take a trip to do something to celebrate that. And this year I was like, I just want to push myself. And I want to be really grateful for the fact that I have this body that can run and can do these things that has really taken me. And my cancer's incurable. So like it just lays dormant. And I can be in remission, but it can spark up at any time. That in itself was a really difficult journey. I was 22 and I had to force doctors to diagnose me because I was so young. And they were like, you don't know what you're talking about. But I had tonsil cancer. So that's why it was very rare. They had no idea how I got it. And then I had to fight for my own treatment. So I didn't do chemotherapy. I only did radiation treatment. And that was all through my own research. I like changed to like a holistic diet. I ate a little bit better. I connected with people. I was really grateful for some of the folks that I met during that journey. Fought with insurance companies to like try to approve my radiation because they were saying it was experimental at the time, while being a single mom. So my daughter was 4. So like I had to navigate her, and she still has memories. Like she's like, I remember times where I'd come home and you couldn't talk. And she's like, and I thought I did something bad and like, you don't want to talk to me. But she's like, now I realize you were sick. Like I had radiation in my throat, so I wasn't able to speak.
oh, wow.
And so like now reflecting on that here 10 years later, I just think of all of the great, like all of the things I've done in these past 10 years, whether it was good or bad. Like I'm just so grateful that I got to live that. And I think that like, so the fact that you're saying I'll feel invincible, it's like, even when I do the Shamrock Shuffle, which is the 8K or the half marathon, like I'm just thinking about crossing that finish line, something that I had never, like I said, running was just never something I imagined. Never thought I'd even get through a mile. In high school, I was like a 15-minute mile because I didn't care. And so like now seeing where I've come is incredible because I would never think that I'd be at this point.
Wow, that's amazing that you're pushing yourself through all of this. And I love the fact that you're seeing it the way that you're seeing it. It is inspirational, honestly, genuinely. Yeah, no, when you decide to do it, just so you know, the training starts in May. Just saying. If you choose, May is around the corner. Anyone that wants to do a marathon, you can sign up and pick one of these great not-for-profits that you could run for and raise funds for, whatever it is on the marathon website. But for Chicago Marathon, it starts the training in May. It's a 20-week training program, so you could run it by October. Just putting it out there. I don't know why. Maybe something to think about.
Yeah, I'm actually working with an organization called Peace Runners. So they're based in the West Side out of Garfield Park, and they have a running program. So they're helping me train for the half. And so I think every month leading up to the half, I'll be in a different race. But they have like a really great curriculum. So shout out to Jackie Hoffman and the whole team over there, because they embraced me and they were like, let's go. You're going to run this year. Like, if this is what you want to do, holds me accountable. Where are you going to show up to the run today? There's community runs on Saturdays over at the Garfield Park Conservatory. So every Saturday morning they run at 9 a.m. and then on Sundays they do long runs. So
maybe I'll join you.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll
should.
join you.
So I actually have this new initiative where I know there's a guy running every street in Chicago, but I'd love to run all 77 neighborhoods and highlight a neighborhood leader from every neighborhood. So maybe wherever you live, we could do a run. And I want to talk about that neighborhood, but I also want to talk about whatever organization runs out of that neighborhood so people know more about what's in the city and where to find things.
I love that. And then you have a servant's heart. So I hear it sounds like you love to serve. You do a lot of nonprofit work. Why is that?
I think for me, my heart has always been to help others. And I tried to do that like the corporate way. I wanted to be a lawyer. I became a paralegal. I had a really bad case where my client got a default judgment for $10 million. He was paralyzed from the waist down. But I had to translate in Spanish that he wasn't going to see anything because the person that hit him didn't have insurance, didn't have assets. So there was nothing to collect from. So that was my job. And I was actually getting ready to go to law school. And when I realized, like he was like, what do you mean? The judge just said I got $10 million. And I was like, right. But if there's no money to collect from the other person, you'll just never see that unless you open up a separate case to garnish this person's wages or whatever it is. And this was like an older lady. So my attorney was like, it's never going to happen. Like, we won and the case is over, but there's nothing to collect. And so for me, I've always found myself wanting to be that connector between communities, between resources. And I've always been very politically inclined, but obviously with the way politics always are, there's always a lot of corruption. There's a lot of, capitalism in there and corporations and things. And so I wanted to start first in the nonprofit world, doing some of this work to understand what are the issues that communities are facing, what are the communities that need the most help, because eventually, once I'm old enough, probably 2032, I would like to have a presidential run. And many people ask why. And I just remember being in 4th grade and like reading history books and thinking like, man, this is a lot of men that we're learning about, like Christopher Columbus, all the presidents, it's John this, John that. And I was like, one day there will be a woman there, and I was like, well, how cool would it be if it was me? And I remember sharing that thought with my dad, and my dad, mentioned, not only would you be the first lady president, but you'd be the first not the first minority, but a minority woman, like a Latina woman. Can you imagine that? And ever since then, that's been ingrained in my mind. So I've just wanted to find ways in which I can show up for communities on smaller levels before I go for this huge run.
I love that. So I love the conversation that we're having. Can you share a little bit about if someone wants to reach out to you or get to know you more, where can they go?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn as Cynthia M. Delira. You can also find me on Instagram, and that is Cindy_Licious, with Cindy being spelled SINDEE_Licious, or on Facebook. And then if you'd like to connect any further, feel free to email me. So that would just be cindy@codeyourdreams.org.
Wow, I think that you are definitely an interesting person. I've enjoyed this conversation a lot. I think just learning about how inspirational you are, what you've overcome, how you're, into your fitness now and your fitness journey, right? The nonprofit work. I love the fact that you want to go to different places and kind of I'll run with you. Like I live in the suburbs now. So I'm like, I was raised in the city, born and raised. I love Chicago. Don't get me wrong, but I moved to the suburbs just because I said that I wanted a calmer lifestyle.
I hear you.
But don't get me wrong, I was in these streets. not in a bad way. Like not in a bad way, but I was out there,
We're
right?
not judging. We listen, but we don't
You know,
judge.
don't judge. But I mean, I love the city. I love Chicago. I do real estate, so I'm always traveling through Chicago, getting to know different neighborhoods, just like you. But I'm a big foodie, so I like to try little restaurants everywhere. You know, just like I want to know the neighborhood spots. Like I want to know the hood spots. I want to know like where can I go get like the best gyro or best hot dog or best burger, right? So I'm just that person, right? But what you're saying is the running in different neighborhoods. I thought that was we could go to Aldi Park and we could run in the old neighborhood. I don't know if I want to run in there. I don't want to see someone I know, but you know, but we could do something like that. But thank you so much, Cindy, for being with us today, this morning, and super excited because you're going to also speak to the students, right?
Yes, I'm excited to meet them all.
Yeah, and you're gonna help me with mock interviews. And
Yes.
so be ready to practice with Cynthia. And then any new projects that are coming up that you just want to share?
So something that I can think of is Code Your Dreams is actually, we're going to be a part of the New York Half Marathon next month. So if anybody's there in New York, please feel free to cheer us on. And I think one thing I can tease at is there will be another run of some kind this year that I will formally announce in the summer. But I will definitely need help on that campaign, and it'll be much more local to Chicago.
Nice. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for everyone watching. We appreciate you guys. I appreciate you. You guys have a great rest of your week. God bless you guys. Take care.